Now we are going to take a look at the most important KPIs, the most important key performance indicators, and we are also looking at the preparation that you have to do before you actually go on your planning days. We start with the raises, matches, and realizations. They are quite easy to observe. You can just get them out of the ranking report on myisec.net. You can compare like the last couple of terms. But that's mostly just the outcome of your efforts. So it's really hard to interpret just the plain numbers of raises, matches, and realizations for your planning. That's why we also use other KPIs. For example, the matching rate, which is the number of matched TNs divided by the number of raises. That means how many of the products you sold can you actually deliver on. Like, if you think of other products, a delivery rate of 100% would be like a normal thing to do or a normal thing to expect. In iSec and in iSec Germany, the matching rate is only somewhere between 55 and 60%, which means that we can still improve a lot on that. You can calculate your matching rate by simply dividing the number of matched TNs by the number of raised TNs. Then you get value. The partner retention rate tells you how many of the last term's TN takers are still willing to work with you in this term. It's a good measure for the quality of the service you provide to companies, because if you provide a good quality and you set the right expectations for them, they are very likely to work with you again, and that will enable you to have a re-raise in the year afterwards. So sometimes partners skip a year because they took one longer TN at the end of 1 year, then the intern is there for a year, and you just realize the next intern at the beginning of the second year after the first TN. So it's sometimes a bit misleading in the calculation, but still it usually gives you a quite good overview of how many partners you're managing to keep in your LC. Now, in Germany, the partner retention rate is about a third, maybe 40%, which is still very low, because if we manage to retain our partners and keep them working with us, we can also work more efficiently, because a re-raise always requires less effort, at least in matching it, than like a cold raise, and it's more fun for your members too. The next important KPI is the matching time or the matching duration, and just counts the days from raise to match. You can calculate that quite easily. You can get an overview also in the ranking report on myisec.net. Put the dates in one column in Excel and the match dates in another column. You can subtract them from each other, and then you get the number of days. After that, you can calculate the average, which gives you your average matching time. The average in Germany is about 2 months, which is somewhere near the international average, but still it can happen faster. If one member can focus on matching 1 TN or maybe 2 TNs, it's possible in maybe 3 weeks or even quicker. Depends also on the quality of the TN that you raised. The next thing we are going to look at is the member efficiency. That means the number of iGIP TNs, like number of raises, number of matches, number of realizations, divided by the members that you have in iGIP. Now, countries like Mexico, for example, are complaining a lot about their member efficiency, and they're saying like, our iGIP member efficiency is only 4, meaning that per year they raise, match, or deliver 4 TNs per member working in the iGIP team. Now in Germany, the member efficiency is about 1, so it's not even close to 1 at the moment. So we still have a lot of room for improvement there. And yeah, the member efficiency is basically telling you who or how many people in your LC are actually working on iGIP, or how many people in your team are working, and who's just slacking off and not really doing anything. The next KPIs are really important because it's the conversion rate of different raising channels. That means, for example, how many cold calls do you need to do before you can raise a meeting at a company? How many meetings with different TN takers do you need to conduct to sell one TN? You can find the data for that in Salesforce, but you can also consult older planning tools. If you don't have the necessary documentation in Salesforce yet, you should start collecting it now because it will make your planning much easier. The conversion rate is basically telling you how much effort do I have to put in to raise one TN. And that, for your planning, you should always take the path of the least resistance. So the best conversion rates, of course, is when you just do a re-raise through having good partnership management and just being there for your company, delivering quality. So much for the KPIs. Now we're going to take a look at what kind of preparation you need to do before you go on planning days. Now, I'm going to say this before I read out this slide, and I'm going to say it again afterwards because it's really important. You should prepare as much as you can before you go on the planning days, because your EBIL will depend on you, and it will depend on the data that you can provide. So don't just start there. It's also very likely that you're not going to have Wi-Fi or an internet connection, so just do as much as possible before you go on planning days. The first thing you need to do is gather data, meaning you do a numerical analysis, go back at least 2 years, you see where your LC comes from, using myisaac.net, Salesforce, the old planning tool, our older planning tool. You can find them all in your VP mailbox or your Google Drive. And you can also try to use any other data you can find, like conversations with older VPs who've maybe been in your LC 2 years ago or 1 year ago, your predecessors, for example. You can consult them. The most reliable is myISAC, but it's sometimes hard to get reliable data out of it. So logging all your important information in Salesforce can help you a lot in your planning process. So then, as soon as you have the data, you use it and you calculate all the important KPIs. Well, sometimes you can just write them down, like numbers of raises, matches, and realizations of the last term. But sometimes you actually have to do a bit of math. But that's not hard. Also check the old planning tools, see what ambitions they had, whether they set their goals really high or if they planned more realistically. Compare the goals and the achievements of the actual last 2 terms. What happened? How did they plan? Where did they go wrong? How can we avoid that? Things like that. The goal of that is not to have the most pessimistic plan after your planning days. It should just help you to get you like a reality check. So still be ambitious and try to be the VP who leaves a legacy in your LC. Don't just carry on the status quo, of course. Fourth thing that you need to do before you go on planning days is see how many members you will need in the beginning of the next semester, what kind of JDs they will have. In the iGIP area, that's quite easy because most of them are going to be account managers. Maybe you need team leaders, If you're a really big LC, you might need some people for reception, but yeah, for most LCs, account managers will do just fine. Again, do that before you go on planning days, not during, and not after, of course.